back with part 3 of Tisha B Av, and that is the 9th of Av. And we are going to begin the readings starting with Shabbat Chazan, which ends up being this past week's, which was yesterday actually, as I'm recording this, which was July 25th. It was Parashat Devarim, and actually the Haftorah was Isaiah chapter 1, 1 through 27. So we're going to read that now, and then we're going to read the book of Lamentations. And then, as I said, I'm going to close that in prayer and open it up to an altar call, and from there we'll do the Aaronic blessing, and we'll end this teaching. Isaiah chapter 1, the vision of Isaiah, son of Amoz, which he saw concerning Judah and Jerusalem in the days of Uzziah, Jotham, Ahaz, Hezekiah, king of Judah. A nation sick with sin, listen, heavens, and hear earth, for Adonai has spoken. Sons I have raised and brought up, but they have rebelled against me. The ox knows its owner, and the donkey its manger. But Israel does not know. My people do not understand. Oi, a sinful nation, a people weighed down with iniquity, offspring of evildoers, sons dealing corruptly. They have abandoned Adonai. They have despised Israel's Holy One. They have turned backwards. Where will you be struck again as you stray away more and more? The whole head is sick, the whole heart faint. From the foot to the head there is no soundness. Wounds, bruises, and raw sores, not pressed, nor bandaged, nor softened with oil. Your land is desolate, desolate. Your cities are burned with fire. Your fields, strangers devour it. In your presence, a desolation, overthrown by strangers. So the daughter of Zion is left as a sukkah in a vineyard, as a latch in a garden of cucumbers, as a besieged city, unless Adonai Sabaoth had left us a small remnant. We would have been as Sodom. We would have been as Gomorrah. Hear the word of Adonai, you rulers of Sodom. Give ear to the Torah of our God, you people of Gomorrah. Worthless offerings. For what is it to me, the multitude of your sacrifices, says Adonai? I am full of burnt offerings of rams and fat of fed animals. I have no delight in the blood of bulls, or of lambs, or he-goats. When you come to appear before me, who has required this at your hand, trampling my courts? Bring no more worthless offerings. Incense is an abomination to me. New moon and Shabbat, the calling of convocations. I cannot endure it. Iniquity with solemn assembly, your new moons and your festivals, my soul hates. They are a burden to me. I am weary to bear them. When you spread out your hands, I will hide my eyes from you. When you multiply prayers, I will not hear. Your hands are full of blood. I just want to pause here a minute. What the Lord was saying through Isaiah, and actually, David had said that in his repentance, that, all the sacrifices basically in the world mean nothing if you don't really have a true repentant heart. And this is what he's saying, you have all these, basically, you do all these ceremonies, and it's ceremony, ceremony, ceremony. And I've had enough of your ceremony because they mean nothing. They don't mean nothing to you either. It's not in your heart. And remember, the Lord knows a heart. So he was basically saying, it's not of the heart. They're worthless to you, so why should they mean anything to me? Because you're just reciting things. You're just going through the motions. How often does that happen in our world, where people go to church, people go and they recite things that you've learned from childhood, but are they really part of you, your integral part? Are they in your heart? Are you saying it with heart to God? Are you actually praying with heart and soul, giving your heart and soul to God? Or is it part of a ritual? Remember, pagans do rituals. Children of God should not be caught up in doing rituals. So what comes out of our mouth needs to come out of our souls, our hearts, our spirits. we need to mean what we're saying, not just going through the motions. So God is basically saying this. I have had it. You guys are doing everything that's an abomination to me anyway. You're falling in line with the pagan practices. You're worshiping idols, and they're more important. So why are you bringing sacrifices to me? You're worshiping idols. So this is what he's saying, and he's bringing these warnings. Scarlet sins as snow. Wash and make yourselves clean. Put away the evil of your deeds from before my eyes. Cease to do evil. Learn to do good. Seek justice. Relieve the oppressed. Defend the orphan. Plead for the widow. Come now, let us reason together, says Adonai. Though your sins be like scarlet, they will be as white as snow. Though they be red like crimson, they will become like wool. If you are willing and obey, you will eat the good of the land. But if you refuse and rebel, you will be devoured with the sword. For the mouth of Adonai has spoken. Restore the faithful city. How the faithful city became a harlot. She once was full of justice, righteousness lodged in her. But now, murderers, your silver has become dross. And I'm going to discuss what the word dross means. Dross basically is rubbish, something that is worthless. So what he's saying is your silver has become worthless. Your wine diluted by water, your princes are rebellious and friends with thieves. Everyone loves a bribe and chases after rewards. They do not defend the orphan, nor does a widow's case come to them. Therefore, says the Lord Adonai Sabaoth, the mighty one of Israel, Oi, and the word oi means woe. Woe, or oi. I will get relief from my foes and avenge myself on my enemies. Then I will turn my hand on you. Purge away your dross, your rubbish, basically, and remove all your alloy. I will restore your judges as at first, your counselors as at the start. Afterward you will be called City of Righteousness, Faithful City. Zion will be redeemed with justice, her repentant with righteousness. But there will be a crushing of transgressors and sinners together. Forsaking Adonai, they will be consumed, for they will be ashamed of the sacred oaks that you desired, and embarrassed because of the gardens that you have chosen. For you will be like an oak of withering leaf, like a garden that has no water. So the strong will become tinder, and his work like a spark. Both will burn together, and no one will quench them. So I actually went a little further because I didn't want to just end with 27. I finished the entire first chapter of Isaiah. So you can see the warnings of Isaiah. He was sending out warnings, I believe, 100 years before Jeremiah was prophesying over Judah. Um, so we're going to now go into Lamentations. In Lamentations, I'm actually reading from the Messianic Jewish Family Bible Tree of Life version. And just as a reminder, Lamentations is not found in the same place that it is in the Gentile Bible. This is in a section known as the Ketuvim, or the writings. And these are writings from Jeremiah. And I'll go into I'll go into the history of this, the introduction, when we actually get to this segment. But we're just going to start from chapter 1 and just continue on with Lamentations. And actually, it is felt that Jeremiah was actually the author of this book. And Jeremiah, again, Lamentations means mourning. And this is concerning the first temple, the temple that Solomon built, and the destruction came on the 9th of Av, 586 BC. Chapter 1 of Lamentations. Song of Jerusalem's groaning. How lonely sits the city, once so full of people. She, who was once great among the nations, has become like a widow. The princess among the provinces has become a forced laborer. Bitterly she weeps in the night. Her tears are on her cheeks. Among all her lovers, there is no one to comfort her. All her friends have betrayed her. They have become her enemies. Judah is gone into exile. Under affliction and great servitude, she dwells among the nations. She finds no resting place. All her pursuers have overtaken her in the midst of her distress. The roads to Zion mourn, for no one comes to her Moedim. The Moedim, of course, is appointed time. All her gates are desolate. Her Kohanim groan. Her maidens grieve. She is in bitter anguish. Her foes have become her masters. Her enemies are at ease. For Adonai has afflicted her because of her many transgressions. Her children have gone away as captives before the adversary. All her splendor has departed from the daughter of Zion. Her princes are like stags. They find no pasture. They have fled without strength before the pursuer. In the days of her affliction and her wandering, Jerusalem remembers all the treasures that were hers from the days of old, when her people fell into enemy hands. There was no one to help her. Her enemies saw her and mocked at her destruction. Jerusalem has greatly sinned. Therefore she has become Nida. All who honored her despise her, for they have seen her nakedness. She herself groans and turns away. Her uncleanness was in her skirts. She did not consider her future. Her demise was astonishing. There was no one to comfort her. Adonai, see my affliction, for the enemy has triumphed. The enemy has stretched his hand over all her treasures. She even saw nations enter her sanctuary, those you had commanded not to enter your congregation. All her people groan as they seek bread. They traded their treasures for food to keep themselves alive. Look, Adonai, and see, for I have become despised. Is it nothing to you, all you who pass by on the road? Look and see. Had to pause there for a moment. I was losing my voice here. Look, Adonai, and see, for I have become despised. Is it nothing to you, all you who pass by on the road? Look and see, is any suffering like my suffering that was brought on me, that Adonai has inflicted in the day of his fierce anger? From on high he sent fire into my bones, and it overcame them. He spread out a net for my feet. He turned me back. He made me desolate, faint all the day long. My transgressions are bound into a yoke, woven together by his hand. They have come upon my neck, and he has sapped my strength. The Lord delivered me over to those I cannot withstand. The Lord has rejected all the mighty ones in my midst. He has summoned an assembly against me to crush my young men. In a winepress the Lord has trampled the virgin daughter of Judah. Over these things I weep. My eyes overflow with water, for far from me is a comforter who might refresh my soul. My children are desolate, because the enemy has prevailed. Zion spreads out her hands. There is no one to comfort her. Adonai has decreed against Jacob. Those surrounding him have become his foes. Jerusalem has become Nida in their eyes. Adonai is righteous, for I have rebelled against his word. Hear now, all peoples, look at my suffering. My maidens and my young men have gone into captivity. I called to my lovers, they deceived me. My Kohanim and my elders perished in the city when they sought food to keep themselves alive. Look, Adonai, for I am in distress. My stomach churns, my heart pounds within me, for I have been very rebellious. Outside the sword bereaves. In the house it is like death. They have heard me groaning. There is no one to comfort me. All my enemies heard of my distress. They rejoice that you have done it. May you bring about the day that you have proclaimed, so they may become like me. Let all their evil come before you. Deal with them as you dealt with me, because of all my transgressions, for my groans are many and my heart is faint. That's the end of chapter 2. Sorry, that's the end of chapter 1. I'm going to go into chapter 2. A lament for Zion. How my Lord has clouded over the daughter of Zion in his anger. He hurled down the splendor of Israel from heaven to earth. He has not remembered his footstool in the day of his anger. My Lord has mercilessly swallowed up all the dwellings of Jacob. He threw down the strongholds of the daughter of Judah in his fury. He knocked to the ground and humiliated the kingdom and its princes. In fierce anger, he has cut off every horn, of Israel. He has withdrawn his right hand from before the enemy. He blazed against Jacob like raging fire, devouring everything around. He bent his bow like an enemy, set his right hand like a foe, and killed all those pleasant to the eye in the tent of the daughter of Zion. He has poured out his wrath like fire. My Lord is like an enemy. He has swallowed up Israel. He swallowed up all her citadels, destroyed her fortifications, and multiplied mourning and moaning for the daughter of Judah. Like the garden, he laid waste his dwelling, destroyed his appointed meeting place. Adonai has caused Moed and Shabbat to be forgotten in Zion. In the indignation of his anger, he spurned king and Kohen. The Lord rejected his altar, despised his sanctuary. He has delivered the walls of her citadels into the hand of the enemy. They raised a shout in the house of Adonai as if it were the day of a Moed. Adonai resolved to destroy the wall of the daughter of Zion. He stretched out a measuring line. He did not withdraw his hand from destroying. He caused rampart and wall to lament. Together they languished away. Her gates sank into the ground. Her bars he destroyed and shattered. Her king and princes are among nations. There is no more Torah. Also her prophets find no vision from Adonai. The elders of the daughter of Zion sit upon the ground in silence. They threw dust on their heads and girded themselves with sackcloth. The maidens of Jerusalem have bowed their heads to the ground. My eyes are filled with tears. My stomach is in torment. My heart is poured out on the ground over the destruction of the daughter of my people. As young children and infants languish in the city squares, they say to their mothers, "Where is grain and wine?" as they faint like a wounded soldier in the city squares, as their lives ebb away in their mother's bosom. How can I admonish you? To what I can compare you, O daughter of Jerusalem? To what can I liken you, so I might console you, O virgin daughter of Zion? For your wound is as deep as the sea. Who can heal you? Your prophets have seen for you false and worthless visions. They did not expose your iniquity so as to restore your captivity. Rather, they have seen for you false and worthless oracles. All who pass your way clap their hands at you. They hiss and shake their heads at the daughter of Jerusalem. Is this the city of which they said, the perfection of beauty, the joy of the whole earth? All your enemies opened their mouth wide against you. They hissed and gnashed their teeth and say, "We have swallowed her up. Surely this is the day we have waited for. We have lived to see it." Adonai has done what he planned. He has fulfilled his word that he commanded from days of old. He has overthrown you without pity. He enabled the enemy to gloat over you. He has exalted the horn of your foes. Their heart cried out to the Lord. O wall of the daughter of Zion, let tears run down like a river day and night. Give yourself no relief, your eyes no rest. Arise, cry out in the night. At the beginning of the watches, pour out your heart like water before the presence of the Lord. Lift up your hands to him for the life of your children who faint from hunger. At the head of every street, look, Adonai, and consider with whom you have dealt so severely. Should women eat their offspring, their healthy newborn infants? Should Kohen and prophet be slain in the sanctuary of the Lord? On the ground and the streets lie both young and old. My maidens and my young men have fallen by the sword. You slew them in the day of your anger. You slaughtered them without pity, and on a Moed day you summon against me terrors on every side. On the day of the wrath of Adonai, no one escaped or survived. Those whom I bore and raised, my enemy has destroyed. And that's the end of chapter 2. Then we go into chapter 3, and it continues saying, I am the strong man who has seen affliction by the rod of his wrath. He has driven me and made me walk in darkness and not light. Surely he has turned his hand against me, and again all day long. He made my flesh and my skin waste away, broken my bones. He has besieged me and surrounded me with bitterness and hardship. He made me dwell in dark places like those long dead. He has walled me in, so I cannot get out. He made my chain heavy. Even when I cry out and call for help, he shuts out my prayer. He walled in my ways with hewn stone. He twisted my paths. He is a lurking bear to me, a lion in hiding. He turned aside my paths and tore me to pieces. He has made me desolate. He bent his bow and made me the target for his arrow. He shot into my kidneys arrows from his quiver. I have become a laughingstock to all my people, their song all day long. He has filled me with bitterness and made me drink wormwood. He broke my teeth with gravel. He made me wallow in ashes. My soul has been deprived of shalom. I have forgotten goodness. So I said, my endurance has perished, and my hope from Adonai. Remember my affliction, my homelessness, bitterness, and gall. Whenever I remember, my soul is downcast within me. Our hope, his faithfulness. That's the second part of chapter 3. This I recall to my heart, therefore I have hope. Because of the mercies of Adonai, we will not be consumed, for his compassions never fail. They are new every morning. Great is your faithfulness. Adonai is my portion, says my soul. Therefore I will hope in him. Adonai is good to those who wait for him, to the soul that seeks him. It is good to wait quietly for the salvation of Adonai. It is good for a man to bear the yoke in his youth. Let him sit alone and be silent. Since he has laid it upon him, let him put his mouth in the dust. There may yet be hope. Intercession for justice. Let him offer his cheek to the one who strikes them. Let him have his fill of disgrace, for the Lord will not reject forever. For though he has caused grief, yet he will have compassion according to his abundant mercies. For he does not afflict from his heart, or grieve the sons of men, to crush under his foot all the prisoners of the land, to deprive a person of justice before the face of Elion, to defraud a person in his lawsuit. Would the Lord not see? Who speaks, and it comes to pass, unless the Lord has decreed it? Is it not from the mouth of Elion that both calamities and good things proceed? Why should any living person complain when punished for his sins? Let us examine and test our ways, and let us return to Adonai. Let us lift up our hearts and hands to God in heaven. We have transgressed and rebelled. You have not pardoned. You covered yourself with anger and pursued us. You have slain without pity. You shrouded yourself with a cloud so that no prayer can get through. You have made us scum and refuse in the midst of the people. All our enemies open their mouth wide against us. Panic and pitfall have befallen us. Devastation and destruction. Streams of tears run down my eyes because of the destruction of the daughter of my people. My eye flows unceasingly, without stopping, until Adonai looks down from heaven and sees. My eye torments my soul because of all the daughters of my city. For no reason, my enemies hunted me down like a bird. They cut off my life in the pit and cast stones upon me. Waters flowed over my head. I said, I have been cut off. I called on your name, Adonai, from the depths of the pit. You heard my voice. Do not close your eyes to my cry for relief. You drew near on the day I called to you. You said, do not fear. Lord, you pled my soul's case. You redeemed my life. Oh, and I need to pause this.